Looking so fresh, looking so fresh. When I walk by, breaking their necks. Waiting in line at the team store. Now I'm feeling fly like a condor. Eyes on me when I walk through the door. Man, I wish I bought a couple more. 'Cause I really love my city. It was worth every penny. If it were at my show, then I know they gon' tip me. Think I might add a couple patches. If you think it's ugly, you capping. Now my whole outfit matching. Never going out of fashion.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome, episode 633 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. Ben Fadden with you here, September 11th, 2024. Padres, they split this two-game series against the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, with the win yesterday, a historic night for Manny Machado and just Padres history overall. And then today, thankfully, it was not historic and it was not a perfect game because it wasn't looking great, halfway or so through this game. But Padres, Fernando did finally get to Bryan Woo with that homer. They only had, though, a couple of runs on the board here tonight and lose 5-2. Padres now 82-65, third in the National League West. They're still obviously in that wild card spot. And I believe the Dodgers and Cubs are still ongoing right now. So maybe later in the show, I will give a full, complete standings update. Just looking at where I should start with this game tonight. If you want to join the show, click that link that's pinned up at the top of the chat. I will obviously get to the comment section as well. Hold on one second. I need to clear my throat. Man, I don't know why I was talking fine, and then, of course, when the show starts, that's what happens. So, bottom of the third, Cal Raleigh with that RBI single. Luke Raley also drove in a couple of runs, and that made it 3-0 Mariners. And this was one of those where, okay, who made more mistakes? The Padres did. All right, they lost the game. It was so costly. I know King, in that inning, I believe he walked a guy, had a hit as well that he allowed. But Jake, that's not something that normally happens with Jake. Like I like him on defense, whether it's at second base, whether it's at first base. Like, I don't care. I have confidence in him. Gets the double play ball. Michael King does. 1 out, I believe, in the inning. And Crony just doesn't catch the ball. Had it kind of snow coned, but he didn't actually catch the ball in his glove. So that's not an out at second. Inning continues, and obviously the Mariners end up scoring 3 runs in that inning. And, what was the difference in this game? 3 runs. Padres lose 5-2. It's the little things. So it's one of these where, did the Padres deserve to win this game? No. It was a perfect game through over 5 innings, right? 5 1/3, I think. And then Tatis, or it was actually through 6, right? Because Tatis got Woo. That was the first hit in that game for the Padres on that homer, which, talk about perfect contact. We want to throw the word perfect out there. That's what that Tatis liner was. But it was only a solo home run. Again, the Padres, they just weren't able to do a whole lot offensively. The Mariners, with runners in scoring position tonight, they went 3 for 13, which isn't amazing. But look how many more opportunities they got with runners in scoring position. The Padres got 3, 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position. Left 3 guys on base with the little action that they had. After that Fernando homer, Bogey came through with a single, shot it right back up the middle. But again, just these 1-run RBI situations there, not going to get you a whole lot. When there's some mistakes made by the Padres, really one main mistake on defense. Not the best night for Michael King, had a couple of walks, wasn't able to get more than 5 innings. And then Adrian Morejon, he walked a couple of guys. The walks got the Padres in trouble. Brian Hoeing, though, inning and a third, didn't give up any runs. Wandy Peralta came in, didn't give up a run. But, just one of those nights for the Padres, really. And, they take 1 out of 2. I'm fine with this split. They had not had a whole lot of success against the Mariners, by the way, recently. And it's on the road, 2 games. The Mariners have a good pitching staff. That's their strength. What's not their strength and what has held this Mariners team back is the offense. And so it was going to be a tough test with the 2 guys the Mariners had throwing in this series. Obviously, Woo throwing in game 2 here tonight, and then Kirby was throwing yesterday. The Padres, though, were able to get to Kirby. Both of those guys, the Mariners threw out there this series, they're strike throwers, and one worked and the other didn't as much. And the one that didn't as much was Kirby, and the Padres got to him. Padres won yesterday 7-3. 3 hits for Arise, 2 hits for Tatis, 2 hits for Profar, 2 hits for Manny, 2 hits for Solano. A lot of production from key guys in this lineup. Obviously, the big story was Manny with his homer, and we'll get to that. But the Padres were down initially in this game. Cal Raleigh with a homer made it 1-0. Raley had a homer, 2-0. As I said in my post-game reaction yesterday, I thought Darvish had a pretty good outing. I'm not upset with the first home run. I believe it was the first home run they allowed. That wasn't even that bad of a pitch. It was down in the zone. But the other home run that he allowed, yeah, obviously that was not very good location. And Darvish, he's still working his way back, though. Like, for me, the progress that I saw was, okay, he's healthy and he didn't walk anyone. So, I'm going to now, you don't want to just be throwing everything right down the middle and, hey, I didn't walk anyone. Great. But just finding a way to be effective, keep the Padres in the game. And that's really what Darvish should be aiming for. Now, obviously, he's going to have no, I'm trying to shut out the other team, and I get that. But when he is building back like this and he has missed so much time, if he can keep the Padres in the game in those 5 innings and give up, a couple of runs only like he did, and he didn't really give up a ton of, I don't know, I was going to say a ton of bad. He didn't put the Padres in a ton of bad situations, just those couple of homers, but those were the only runs that scored, just 2 solos. And then you had a pretty good job from the bullpen with Estrada. I wouldn't look at Tanner Scott's line because Laz Diaz was screwing him last night. He struck out a couple of guys and didn't get the call. Jason Adam comes in, huge double play there. I think it was a double play with the bases. I want to say it was bases loaded. And so just able to get out of jams. Let's see here. What inning was that? 7th inning, I want to say. Yeah. Jason Adam came in, got J-Rod to ground into that double play. 6-4-3 to end that inning. Padres there held the 7-3 lead. If Adam can't do that, then it's even closer and could get a little bit hairy there. And then Suarez obviously pitched, inning and a third, no runs, couple of strikeouts, no walks. His ERA down to 2.48. Jason Adams, by the way, 1.91, and Tanner Scott 1.55. To have 3 guys with a sub 2.50 ERA in the back of the bullpen. And Suarez, there have been a couple of times this year where it's like he was 1 out away from getting out of that situation and then gives up 4 runs like the other night, So I don't want to say the ERA is misleading because, yeah, I mean, he gave up the home run still, but he's been very good still for the most part this season for this Padres team. And you put that bullpen out there with other guys like Jeremiah Estrada and possibly Michael King or someone else that goes from the rotation to the bullpen if the Padres only need 3 starters in a situation like the wild card series. And then you have the starting pitching if they're going to be on, and you've got the names in that lineup. I was reading an article on ESPN, I think today, about like who's the big threat to the Dodgers and Phillies, and the Padres got the most votes. And it's like, yeah, because you put all those things together, the names in the line, the talent in that lineup, they don't give up. They fight back even when they're down in games. The back end of the bullpen, and just the depth in the bullpen. The stars, the star talent in the rotation. That's not a team that the Phillies or Dodgers or any team would probably want to face come postseason time. So, make the postseason. Yeah, of course, we hope that it's a home wild card series and they get the first spot. But really, wherever it is, like I believe in the talent that this Padres team has. And just rounding it back to this Seattle couple of games, I'll take it. I just didn't want to lose both games of the Seattle series. Just, stay where you're at in terms of above 500. Boom. And then you go in with an off day tomorrow and you go to San Francisco. By the way, the bullpen usage by Schilt yesterday, I was totally fine with it. Like I said in my post game yesterday, there was an off day Monday. There was off day, obviously, tomorrow, Thursday, before the Giants series. It's only 2 games in Seattle. You have an opportunity to go win that game. It's not guaranteed that you're going to be in a situation to win the next game. Just go do it, And that's what Schilt has done this year, by the way. He's not afraid to use his high leverage relievers, even if it's not a 3-run game or a 2-run game. Even if they're up by 4, he's not messing around because he knows that wins are hard to come by at the big league level, almost regardless of who you're playing, because those other guys are still trying to beat you. There's still a lot of talent in the league. And, we see teams all the time lose to teams that are nowhere near the level of the team that lost that night, if that makes sense, So Padres, 1 out of 2. Manny, obviously, last night with the homer, breaking the Padres franchise record. He had tied Nate Colbert. He had passed Agon on that Friday night game at home. And for him to get it, Don's call I thought was amazing. Jesse's was good as well. But to him, that at bat, by the way, because he had to fight for that too. He fought and he worked that count, and then he got the mistake pitch and then took advantage of it, almost dead center. And there's no one really that I'd rather have that record right now. Like, this is a guy that has, put himself into the San Diego community. He's the Roberto Clemente Award nominee for the Padres this year. So congratulations to him on that. That is obviously a huge honor for players in baseball to be their team's nominee. Just like I'm sure like the Heart and Hustle is a big deal as well with Jackson Merrill this year. So he has that. This guy's here. He plays through injuries, coming back from the elbow surgery, playing through the finger issue as well that was revealed, I believe, last homestand. This guy fights, and some obviously will get on him about not hustling, and I do it when I feel like it's deserved, but I'm not going to go over the top on it. I'm not going to expect him to hustle down the line every game on a, grounder to second base. It's a situational thing for me. I love pretty much everything about Manny when it comes to him on the field and how he does not want to take days off. Him leading by example, his leadership comes from being on the field, from teammates like Greg Garcia, who's been on the show and has told the story about not knowing if Manny was going to play, 10 minutes before the game. He is not on the field. He's not in the cage. He's on the treatment table. And boom, he goes and plays that game. Like, this guy is a fighter. He's a competitor. And he's going to be here for a long time. Through 2033 is his contract. So that was a great moment. If other fan bases want to laugh and be like, oh, less than 200 home runs is the franchise record, this isn't a big deal at all. I really don't care. We've been waiting, Padres fans is we, obviously. We've been waiting a long time to have someone come around who's going to be remembered as a Padre more than their previous stop, which is what Manny will be remembered as. He'll be remembered as a Padre more. Been waiting for that superstar talent to come around and be here long term for a while. Like actual superstar. All credit to Will Myers, right? But like, he wasn't a superstar. Fat Kemp, that was not his prime days. He didn't want to be here. I could go down the list. But like superstar guy that can break the record. He's going to be here a long time, and he's a competitor. And so props to Manny. I love that. And then Tatis had himself one heck of a freaking series, huh? The play that he made in right field, not tonight. I mean, that was great, robbing the home run. But yesterday, on like that ball where he's going to his right and like a shortstop almost, throwing across his body a little bit, picks it up, gets the one hop throw into Bogey at short, who that's another thing to talk about as well. I don't know if people understand how difficult of a play that would be at the big league level to do that as in the outfield. I shouldn't say as an outfielder because we know he's an infielder playing the outfield, but he's also a really good outfielder as well. I mean, he just won the Platinum Glove. There was someone on social media last night that was like saying something negative about Tatis on defense. Like a shame that I forget what it was. It was so stupid that I don't even remember what this guy said. But he literally replied to the clip I put out of Tatis making a really good throw, making that play. Let me try to find it. Maybe the guy deleted the tweet, but it was like, what are you talking about? Oh, here it is. Josh Redding. If you're a fan of the show, it's not personal. I just totally disagree with what you're saying here. He quote tweeted the clip that I put out of Tatis making that throw. And he said, such a bummer he's not a better defender. What could have been? With heartbreaking emoji. Like, what? What do you mean he's not a better defender? What could have been? You mean what was the Platinum Glove that he won last year in his first year in right field? He's one of the best defensive outfielders for sure in all of baseball. So, I mean, he has the arm. So I totally disagreed with that. Like, what are you talking about? I'm sorry, but wow. That's a take. That's a take for sure. But yeah, what a series that Tatis had. I mean, he had the opposite field homer, right? That was yesterday. Let me find it. Yeah, he had the homer yesterday. Beautiful swing before Manny went yard. And then today, to break up the perfect game, which sucked that it took that long to get a base runner, but perfect contact, line drive to I mean, that ball got out quick. And then the plays that he makes on defense, the one that I just hit on, the infielder shortstop type play in the outfield, gunning down the runner at second base, and then him robbing a homer tonight, robbing who was it? Randy Rosarena of a homer. He took that. That was not one of those where maybe it hit the top of the wall and he just jumped to make it look cool. No, he robbed that thing. Unfortunately, the Padres couldn't really capitalize on it because they still lost by 3. But again, I'm still taking this series, 1 out of 2. I'm fine with it. I'll take it. They're 82-65. By the way, yesterday with that win, they matched last year's win total. And they still have now, 15 games left? I think they had 16 entering today. So that just shows, the improvement of this year's team, obviously, compared to last year, despite being, down like $80 million in payroll, not having Juan Soto, Blake Snell, Josh Hader, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Nick Martinez. I mean, there are some guys that are off this team. And yes, obviously, AJ Preller added to it with good additions. But I'm not so sure how many people in spring training would have said, yeah, the Padres, they're going to match last year's win total with that roster. Now, they made a bunch of additions after spring training, so maybe I shouldn't say spring training, but you get my point. They're going to match last year's win total with 16 games left to go. in the season? Yes or no? How many fans truthfully would have been like, they would have believed, yeah, we're going to do that. It's just, it's great. It's refreshing to be in this situation where, I feel really good about the Padres' chances of making the postseason. And I believe that, they can actually go on a run. I forget if I believe that they could go on a run like they did in 2022 going into that postseason. I probably did like a little bit, but I don't think it was as much as I believe going into this postseason, assuming that they do make the postseason. It just feels different. Um, Maybe it's because of the comeback wins. Maybe it's because of the depth. Maybe it's because they have star players coming back, like Tatis just came back, Darvish just came back, Musgrove came back, obviously. Maybe it's that. Them not giving up the manager they have. Yeah, it's just a different feeling. It's a good feeling, obviously. Bogey movement is shortstop. I hit on this yesterday, but for the podcast audience and those that are watching this on YouTube that didn't catch it yesterday, my thoughts there is like, yeah, I'm totally for it. I was fine if they were going to stick with Mason McCoy at short, to be honest, because I believed in the other talent in the lineup. And if they were going to stick with Mason McCoy at shortstop, I understood why. Like, yeah, this is the best defense. You have Bogart stay at second, Crony at first. You can have Solano or Rise be on the bench, and that's a good option to have, along with David Peralta on the bench. But this way, it's not like they're guaranteed a postseason spot. They want that offense. And Ha-Seong Kim, he's not able to throw 100% across the diamond. So, hey, let's move Bogarts back to where he, played for a decade at the big league level. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. Once he starts, because it is a different motion, right? At second base, his arm slot was lower. At shortstop, it's back to being higher. But, with a few days there of doing that, he'll be fine. He's fine. And it seems like he's more bought into it. He didn't want to do it initially, but I think he realizes like, hey, Kim's probably not coming back here anytime soon. And this allows Donovan Solano to get consistent at bats. When he was getting consistent at bats, he was hitting better than when he wasn't. So you can get him in a better bat than Mason McCoy. You can get Crony to be able to, obviously tonight wasn't great there with that double play possibility, but you get him at second base. He was an all-star there multiple times at second base. He has the range, which he doesn't show off as much at first base. And you have Solano or Rise at first, and you have the other DH. I like that. The offensive upgrade, totally fine with it. Maybe it cost the Padres, but I mean, they could also make up with it with the offense too, right? So, yeah. Bogey, there was nothing that stood out to me like, oh no, Bogart's at shortstop. There's nothing there for me. I know it's a couple of games, but this guy played shortstop at a high level, for a decade. Won a couple of World Series doing that at shortstop with the Red Sox. So I have no doubt that he can do it. And then Crony at second base, like I have no doubt that he can do that as well. He was at second base in 2022 when the Padres, had that run. So totally fine with it. Now, Luis Campusano was sent down. That was some interesting news that came before today's game. I'll give you the full roster move here. So Tom Cosgrove came up. Brandon Lockridge came up to give the Padres an additional outfielder for a little bit because Martin Perez placed on the paternity list. So congratulations to him. Padres can get an additional arm there. They send Campy down. And this, I mean, it makes sense because, and scratch the whole a little bit thing that I just said. I guess a little bit because Lockridge won't be on the postseason roster, right? But because of expanded rosters, you send Campy down. This is the Padres saying, we're riding with these two catchers. These are our two catchers, Higgy and Elias Diaz. We're going to give Diaz playing time. We're going to see if he should be our second catcher on a postseason roster, with Higgy being the starter. We can't have Campy up here and just sitting here. Let's give him reps in AAA for however long their season is. And you can have Brandon Lockridge come up and be an option to come in if there's an injury. If something happens, he can pinch run, So I think they got him in the Enyel De Los Santos deal to the Yankees. And by the way, there's a connection there today because Scott Barlow was just released, I believe, by the Guardians, and the Padres saved money by acquiring De Los Santos before this season. Obviously, it didn't work out great, but they send him to the Yankees. Then they get Lockridge, who's now a major league piece on this roster, and they don't have the money, the salary for Scott Barlow, who ended up not doing great. And the Padres have a back end of the bullpen that's better than last year's that had Scott Barlow on it. So, another point for AJ Preller on his season. But, with Campy, for me, Elias Diaz is the obvious pick. If you're going to have two catchers on the roster, Higgy's the starter. He should be catching every postseason game, in my opinion, at this point in time. And then Elias Diaz, he has an arm. He can throw some guys out. He's better defensively. Go look at the Baseball Savant numbers. He's better defensively than Campy is. And he can run into one. Campy, sure, we thought he was the starting catcher, right, going into the year. But then I believe he got hurt a little bit, and then Higgy takes over, and he's just there from there out. He earned it because he ended up being he's having a career year, while Luis Campusano didn't take a step forward offensively. And I was hoping he would. Obviously, I root for all these guys because this is my team. But we were expecting more, I think, collectively as Padres fans. Maybe some weren't. But I was not expecting him to have an 80 OPS plus, a 642 OPS, 227 average, less than 10 home runs and 277 at-bats, a negative WAR. When you're a replaceable player like that, you're going to go with Elias Diaz, and you just try it, especially when that guy's better defensively than Campy is at this moment. So I like it. We'll see if Campy can bounce back. We'll see if he's going to be on the big league roster next year. But for now, a team that's trying to make the postseason, right, that hasn't been clinched. You want the best catching situation. And, Lockridge comes up. He can give you a little bit of versatility. You have offense. And it's not like Campy was Gary Sanchez of last year. That would be different, right? Not the case. So good luck to Campy. Hopefully he can get, he will, I assume. We'll get that consistent playing time. And then Elias Diaz, I'm curious to see how he's going to do with more playing time than what he was getting. I just didn't understand. There was the other day, there was that game where Schilt played Campy, started him in the lineup. And I'm like, what are we doing here? You have Elias Diaz on the roster, and you're playing a guy that you pretty much know who he is, at least for this year, because you've seen the hundreds of at-bats. You've seen him behind the plate. How about you play Elias Diaz? And it seems like there's going to be more of that coming up here. So that was the roster moves before today's game. And I'll get to the chat here in a little bit. I just wanted to double check that I'm not missing anything I wanted to bring up here. Yeah, coming up is the Giant series, Padres and the Giants over the weekend, off day Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, it'll be Dylan Cease. That's at 7:15. A little bit late of start there at Oracle Park. Saturday, Musgrove's on the mound. That's at 6:05. And then Sunday, Martin Perez is scheduled. But who knows if he'll make that start because he's on the paternity list. That's Sunday, September 15th. That is at 1:05. To be determined for all the Giant starters. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Giants right now 72 and 74. And we'll see where the Padres are at standings wise. Right now in the division, the Dodgers, I believe, are still playing the Cubs. Padres 5 games back. I'm not even really thinking about the division other than when it pops up when I go to look at the standings on MLB.com. And then the wild card, the Padres right now are actually not the top wild card team. They are a half game back of the D-backs. D-backs 82 and 64, Padres 82 and 65. So Padres, as of now, obviously the season's not over, but they would be going to Arizona to play that wild card series. And then the Mets have that final wild card spot. The Braves are a game back of the Mets. So this is going to be so interesting to see who gets that final spot and just what this order is with these 4 teams: D-backs, Padres, Mets, Braves. Cubs, I'm not putting them in that. They're 4.5 back. Obviously, Phillies are winning the East, Dodgers the West, Brewers the Central. And yeah, the Padres, I mean, we got 82 wins, but I don't think that's a team very many teams want to go play come postseason time. With the talent in that bullpen, the talent in the rotation, the talent in the lineup. Jackson Merrill, I just keep thinking about the postseason. Jackson Merrill in the postseason, Tatis in front of a crowd in the postseason. Man, that's going to be electric. Knock on wood, the Padres make the postseason. All right. Some of the great partners of the show, and then I'll get to the chat. Gaglo and Bros, famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. Their main location is on Friars Road. They're inside Snapdragon Stadium. They're inside Petco Park. So check them out next time you're at a Padre game or you're around Mission Valley, that area there. Breaking Tea. They just released a Manny Machado Home Run King shirt. I just tweeted about it. I also made a post here on the YouTube channel about it. So you can click that link in that post. San Diego Home Run King Manny Machado Breaking Tea shirt out now. Click that link in the description, and you will be able to go find that in the Slam Diego Padres section there of that site. They also got a lot of great shirts. Merrill, Profar, Tatis. I mean, you name it, and they've got it. Underdog, 50% deposit match up to $1,000. When you use code Talking Friars, you can claim a special pick. With football season back, they've got a bunch of specials for Underdog users. So use that to your advantage. There's WNBA obviously going on. That's going to be fun to watch, down the stretch. There's college football, San Diego State football, by the way, and I'll get more to San Diego State here in a second because there is news there. They play at Cal coming up this weekend. The Wave are going to be playing at Utah, trying to, get 3 points. It's been a little bit since, and it'll be their first game outside of the Alex Morgan era. So that's what we got really on tap for San Diego sports this weekend. Obviously, Padres Giants. SeatGeek code Talking Friars, $20 off your first order there when you sign up. Again, code Talking Friars. All right. Getting to the chat here, Michelle says, I'm very worried. I don't know why you would be very worried. I mean, is it because of today's game? Is it because they recently lost 3 out of 4? I mean, there's a bunch of teams in baseball that lose 3 out of 4 at one point. Let's remember the Padres went, 19-4 over a stretch of games? So, I'm looking at the big sample size. I'm looking at just the team, the eye test, not necessarily just the numbers. And I see encouraging things. So I'm not very worried about this Padres team. No, that's not how I'm thinking about this. Do I honestly think they're going to clinch? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they've got a good shot at being the first wild card. John says suckness in Seattle. Yeah, offense, not so great. Not so great today. But yesterday was much better. Again, I'm fine with taking 1 out of 2 in Seattle. I just didn't want to lose both games. Jackson said Seattle had their second best pitcher out there. The boys fought, but some terrible defense cost us the game. Go beat San Francisco. They aren't playing for anything. Well, some of those players are playing for, their next contract. They're trying to make a good impression going into the off season and into, next spring training. So there's guys playing for things. Maybe the team overall, they're not going to be a postseason team. I get that's what you're talking about there. But sometimes these teams that aren't playing for anything, they're the teams you don't want to play because like they play loose and they're not tight. They don't feel the pressure as a team, as a unit on themselves. Hopefully the Padres miss Blake Snell because if they don't, I feel like that's like 7 innings, no runs written all over it, right? Carter says, "Hey Ben, hope you're doing well, man. Same to you. Glad to see Nando homer yesterday and today. His robbed home run was amazing. Also got my Merrill shirt from Breaking T. Awesome. Yeah, I think I've got that same shirt that you got from Breaking T. They've got not just one, but they've got a few over there at Breaking T. They've got a Merrill Madness one. They've got one where it's Merrill, the one I have, with him with the sunglasses and the eye black. They've got a Merrill Profar 2024 shirt. They've got the Profar Mr. Relevant shirt that I've got. They've got I Love You with, Darvish. The Manny Home Run King shirt that just dropped. They've got a bunch of Tatis stuff. So, again, check them out there. Breaking T. Sal says, must-win series against San Francisco. It feels like it, right? San Francisco, they're under 500, 72 and 74. They're 4-6 in their last 10, 8 games back of a playoff spot. I know you're playing there, but considering they just lost that series to San Francisco, yeah, go win this series at San Francisco. And just because this wild card race is so freaking close, the Padres, they're 2.5 games out, or 2.5 games. Yeah, them and the Braves are separated by 2.5. The Braves are the last team out. So, that's not a lot of games that are separating you and missing the postseason. I still think they're going to make it, but just saying, when you're playing the Giants, the White Sox are on like 5 different levels below that of suckiness. But, the teams that you play that don't have winning records, right? The Padres, they play the Astros, Dodgers, D-backs. Like they've got good teams here in this September stretch. But they've also got, the Giants, the White Sox. I think the A's still. Now, the A's aren't terrible, actually, if you have paid attention a little bit. But, yeah, take advantage of that. Earlier in the year, right, they get swept by the Angels. I think the Rockies, right, some bad series. Like, they weren't taking advantage enough. But then when they were playing some bad opponents over that 19-game stretch, they did take advantage of it. So I'd like that to happen here in September. If they do that, then they will be in the postseason pretty comfortably, I would say. What I mean by that is like they might know that they clinched a spot before they get to the last series of the season. Maybe in the middle of that second to last series. Rex lays out the schedule here, actually. Yeah, Giants, then the Astros, the Dodgers, the D-backs. Padres, I believe, have one more homestand left. The Giants and the Astros. Do we not play the A's? I thought we have the A's, right? Oh, no, we played the A's at home earlier this year. I remember. That was the Merrill walk-off. Yeah, so the Giants, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the Astros, Monday through Wednesday, then an off day, then Friday through Sunday with the White Sox, then an off day, then the Dodgers for 3, and then you finish out the regular season with the D-backs for 3. And then it is on to the postseason, on to October. I like what Major League Baseball did, by the way, where you're not playing a regular season game in October, right? Because, we used to talk about October like, yeah, October when it matters the most. Teams step up. You want to get to October. Well, then that saying didn't really make a whole lot of sense because even if you're the White Sox, you still got to October because regular season games were in October at the end of that year. I like that it's, September and that's it. And then October, Only teams that are playing in October are postseason teams. That is what October is for. I like that. All right. I did want to get to some San Diego State news that came across, I believe, during this Padres game, because this is interesting. So, San Diego State, obviously, we know that they were close to joining the Pac 12, and then everything fell apart. Oregon goes to another conference, right? They go to the Big Ten. USC goes, and then Utah went, and Arizona State, and then there was two teams in the conference: Oregon State and Washington State. Now, the Pac-12, Pac-2, they have a little bit of a grace period here. They have some time to try to keep that conference alive. And so, naturally, you're going to try to recruit the Mountain West teams. This year in the football season, by the way, San Diego State, they are playing Oregon State. They're playing Washington State. And so there's that relationship there. There's that partnership. And now you've got the Pac-12, putting together this plan here, a long discussed plan, according to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, to rebuild the league with additions from the Mountain West. And I'm reading this from Ross from earlier today. The Pac-12 is mobilizing its long-discussed plan to rebuild the league with additions from the Mountain West. The two-team conference of Washington State and Oregon State is targeting Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State as new additions in a reimagined Pac-12. Those schools are expected to soon apply or have already applied for membership into the conference, the first step in the process to complete the deal. They would join the league starting with the 2026 school year. So if that ends up being the case, like as an Aztecs fan, yeah, I would be pumped about that, because that's really the best case scenario. Would I have loved to be a part of the Pac-12, like the actual Pac-12 with Oregon and USC and Washington? Washington was another team that left. Yeah, of course. I mean, I had the Pac-12, when my family had cable, watching the Pac-12 basketball games, the football, obviously, the Pac-12 at night, Pac-12 after dark. Like, I would have loved having San Diego State be a part of that conference. But this is the best case. It's not like they were going to go to the Big 12 or ACC or anything like that. And while the Mountain West, sure, like there's the history there, if you can be in the Pac-12, this could give you an automatic bid to the college football playoff. Like, that's just one of the aspects that I think about. And then Oregon State and Washington State, those are better programs, usually, just overall with their sports, than like Hawaii and I don't want to throw like specific team, under the bus. But, Hawaii, San Jose State, some other teams that are in the Mountain West. And so taking Washington State and Oregon State, putting them with Boise State, San Diego State, those are the top two teams in the Mountain West, right? I think like overall, when I think of the Mountain West, I think of Boise, I think of San Diego State, I think of Fresno. Maybe Wyoming joins that, Colorado State. Commissioner Teresa Gold and officials from the Pac-12 have spent the last year examining possible options for their future after 10 schools left the league for the Big 10, Big 12, and ACC. They have long held the belief that they can preserve the Pac-12 brand by reconstructing the conference through expansion, using the 108-year-old tradition, history, and assets to attract new members. Let's see. If the aforementioned four join, so obviously State, Colorado State, Boise, who am I missing? Fresno State. I would think that they want to attract UNLV as well, get that Las Vegas market in there. Maybe that's just me. The league still would need two more to complete the process, not including UNLV. I just threw that name in there. Maybe they'd want that. But if those four, including State, join, you still need two more to complete the process. So 2 plus 4, you need at least 8 schools at the very least. That's NCAA's minimum required to qualify as an FBS conference. It must reach the minimum by July of 2026. So they've got time. That's the good news here, is the Pac-12 has time for this to actually be a thing and for San Diego State to then join that conference. $17 million exit fee. The Pac-12 is on a hook for an additional $10 to $12 million penalty fee for every school they acquire as part of a scheduling agreement the conference struck with the Mountain West. So this would not be cheap. But let's remember, San Diego State they seemed ready. Didn't they have paperwork? I think they had paperwork filled out. There was something I heard about that. And then it fell apart. There was that meeting with all the Pac-12 schools, and Oregon dipped, and teams just went. And that was that. And San Diego State was close. Like, they were going to join if that didn't happen. Which, it sucks, Of course, I wanted to be in that conference with the whole Pac-12 conference, but that obviously just didn't happen. And so, again, this is probably the best situation that the Aztecs can be in. And the Aztecs, by the way, would be one of the better teams, if not the best all-around sports programs, if that makes sense, sports school in that conference. They would. With the basketball, football, obviously, that's not there, but it could be. Sean Lewis was talking about how this could take a couple of years here with this process and the buy-in. They've got a freshman quarterback, obviously, with Danny O'Neal. It may take some time here. But basketball's there year in, year out. Softball's doing their thing. Baseball, they've had some success. So it's interesting. It's something to keep an eye on. And could have Oregon State and Washington State went to the Mountain West, I guess. But the Pac-12, they had sure, they can throw the history out there. But what I was more concerned about, they have the title of being a major conference already. Or the Mountain West doesn't. They're one of the group of 5 conferences, not the Power 5. And I mean, there's really a Power 2 now, right? Sure, you can include Big 12 and ACC, but really the 2 big conferences are the Big 10 and the SEC. That's just what it is. And there's a bunch of schools in those 2 conferences. So for San Diego State to possibly, join a conference that, only 2 schools, but they were considered a Power 5 program, or Power 5, conference, that would hopefully put that conference in the position to get an automatic bid into the college football playoff, whoever wins that conference. I'm not going to act like I know a bunch about how much money San Diego State would get from this, years and years down the road, being in the Pac-12. Or the Pac-8 or whatever it ends up being. But if this does happen, this is great. It's earned. You want the football program to be better, but, they're building. And the basketball program deserves to be in a big conference. They do. And they deserve their respect. And San Diego State, they've upgraded facilities, obviously with Snapdragon Stadium. And, they were making that push to be we're really well positioned. Pac-12, you should want us. You should want our market in your conference. And I'm talking about before everything, collapsed there. And so I think San Diego State, they still deserve to, be in that conference, to take that next step, to be up there. We'll see what the conference ends up actually looking like. We'll see what schools do they add. Is it going to be actually just West schools, or is it going to be like the Big Ten has done, and who cares about the actual location of the school, and you just try to go get the best market or the best school? It's going to be interesting. But if you're an Aztecs fan, I think you should be excited about this, but there's more details that we're going to probably have to learn about here. And, it's not like this is final. They still need more schools to actually have this be a thing. But there's time. 2026, like I said, there is that deadline. All right. Getting back to anything in the chat. Someone says Crone Zone has become the dead zone. Yeah. Well, I don't want to say that's totally correct. It's not totally correct. But I understand what you're saying. He got off to a really good start this year. And he hasn't been able to, sustain that throughout the season. But were we expecting him to sustain that throughout the season? I don't think very many people were. It's been a bounce back year. His OPS plus is still above league average. He has 16 homers, OPS over 730. So his first couple of months, I'm just looking at his game logs here. He had a 782 OPS. And if we look at, this is entering today, his last couple of months, so since start of August, his OPS is 755, 260. He has 2 home runs the last couple of, well, that's really like the last month and a week. So the power has not been the same. How many home runs in total? Yeah, 16 homers. So it hasn't been the same. But maybe it's just because of 2022, but it's someone that I still believe could go get a big hit and have a big moment come postseason time. And he still provides value defensively. Was tonight great? No, of course not. But I'm not going to go as far to say the dead zone. It's been the step back zone for a little bit. But, baseball's hard. Rex says Pac-12 isn't a Power 5 conference. It's just the old WAC conference. I don't know what TV deal they can get with the conference without USC and UCLA. That's true. It's really the name, right? And I hit on that, right? The Pac-12, they can throw the whole history thing at you, but like the biggest schools are not in the conference anymore. So it's not really, it doesn't hold that weight. But I still look at it as it was that big conference, and they have some advantages still, I feel like, that the Mountain West doesn't have. So that's what I'm looking at it as. And maybe, if there's not 16 teams in the conference and it's the best of the Mountain West, and then you have some other schools as well, that could help the basketball program, for example, because you have a strong conference schedule, and then you can have more games against better teams to build your resume. Because the Pac-12, not the Pac-12, the Mountain West now in basketball, they increased their conference games by 2 this year. I think to 20. Could be wrong, but I think it's from 18 to 20. So that takes away 2 opportunities for San Diego State to build their resume outside the Mountain West. So the Mountain West is relying on itself to be a good conference like they were last year, or else they're not going to get very many teams in there. Right? So just putting that out there. Rex says Merrill and Crony need to switch spots in the order. I'm fine with that. I said that the other day. Merrill, he deserves it. He deserves to be up in the order. But also the Padres, they're still winning. So, if Schilt comes back to you with that answer, I'm also fine with that, to be honest. I am curious to see, if the lineup does change, though, at all. But if they keep winning series for the most part, then I don't expect it to change. All right, that's going to do it. Talking Friars episode 633. Thank you, everyone, so much for the time. I hope y'all have a good night and you enjoy the day off tomorrow before the Padres are back at it in San Francisco against the Giants. Padres go into this off day with an 82-64 record, 82-65 record. Good spot. They're in a playoff spot. Not in the first wild card, but there's still time.